Hello, I'm Daniela, and welcome to the first prompt in Stitch With Me in 2025. Before we get started, I just want to tell you about our Facebook group, which you're all welcome to join. There's no charge for this. It's a closed Facebook group. It's a wonderful community of people who follow the prompts and post their work, and others comment on it. It's super supportive, and you should see the work that's posted. It is simply amazing, and it's a great group. I'll include that link in all the Stitch With Me in 2025 posts. But let's get started right away. The first prompt of the year is sashiko. Now, sashiko is a beautiful Japanese art of stitching. It's geometric, it's repetitive, it's soothing, it's gorgeous. Typically, it was done on indigo fabric with white sashiko thread. At the time, hundreds of years ago, this was cost efficient. People would use this pattern both as something aesthetic and functional. They'd mend their clothes with it. Today, we're just going to be inspired by those beautiful prints. I have a link from the Spruce Crafts that gives 7 patterns in case you want to follow along with one of them, or you can create your own. It's simple, repetitive, geometric stitching. And I can't wait to show you how I took that prompt, sashiko, and ran with it and made something a little modern and something personal to me. So let's get started. So just to refresh, I have a whole video on how I created the book. This is a prototype, but the end result will look something similar to this, where I have the cover and the back cover as standalone pages, and then the inner pages will be folded to create a front and a back for prompts 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. In the prototype, I chose to make the first page for the first prompt a different color than the remainder, and the last page a different color, just to give some variation. But I don't think I'm going to do that for the book. For the first page, I have my fabric that I cut to 6.5 by 12, and I'm going to fold it in half. So now when I fold it in half, I have one half that will be for prompt 1 and the other half for prompt 2. I don't want to stitch it together this way. I wanted to stitch it separately and then combine it after both prompts are completed. So for the first prompt, I can decide if I want the straight edge to be on the outside of the book or by the grommets on the inside. And I like it to be on the inside. I like to have that pinked edge, which I'll trim further after I complete my prompts, on the outside. I may cover them, I may add additional fabric or ribbon, but I want them all to be uniform. They don't have to be. That's at your discretion. So right now I have here prompt 1, so I'll put a dot up here, make even a little 1 here, and then I'll flip it over, and so this will be prompt 2, and the grommets will be here. So I'll put a 2 here. This just helps me to see, before my book is assembled, how it's going to look. So I know that I need to stitch everything from this crease over, and because I'm going to have the grommets on the piece, I just want to keep in mind that approximately here and here will be the grommets. This way, if I stitch my piece, I'll know that that piece of fabric will be removed for the grommets. So now to get into the prompt right away, I have my little substrate here, this square of fabric for page 1. The prompt being sashiko, I found some beautiful sashiko embroidery patterns. They can be used for quilting or embroidery. I'll include that link below from the Spruce Crafts. They have an article that you can read online and then multiple patterns that you can download, or you can create your own, or you can eyeball it. This is the pattern I'm making. It reminds me of mermaid scales, fish scales, and I just printed it out as a reference. You don't even need to print it out. There are other patterns as well. This is a sashiko inspired image, so I'm going to change it up a little. Typically that's done with indigo fabric and white thread, but I'm just going to use the idea of the beautiful repetitive geometric pattern. So I have my colors that I selected, and now I'm just going to take the fabric and kind of just establish how I want the background to go. I do want to see a little bit of that edge, that pinking sheer edge, but I have my fabrics here. So the first step will be for me just to stitch it down, just with little stitches, just tacking everything down. So after it's stitched down, I can start creating my pattern. Now, traditional sashiko is used for mending, so the idea of the pattern holds the fabric in place. However, it doesn't have to, and since this is inspired, I might just do a partial sashiko embroidery, maybe over 3/4, 2/3 of this piece. Here is the pattern I want to use. So to transfer it, I just found my template here, and I can just eyeball and see that this circle creates the outer pattern, and the circle goes right up to these marks. How convenient on this piece. And then the inner circle, I'll just find the correct one and create those marks as well. Now, to help make my piece neater, I'm going to have a ruler here to start out this pattern. So if you notice here, because it's repetitive, the baseline here is where it starts. So I want to keep that pattern nice and neat. I'll bring it down here to the base of my project, be maybe just 1/8 of an inch off, just above the stitching that I put down. And now I made this line. It's very hard to see on the dark fabric. I might have to use a lighter color pencil, but for now I'll try it this way. And now I want to create those scales. So I'll start with my first layer. I'm lining up the marks on this little template here. You can use a bottle cap as well. And now I'm outlining that larger circle, and it touches the next circle. So I'll just find that piece there, do that, and even start the third one. I'm just going to go right up to the stitching. And then I want to make that smaller circle. So I'll take that larger circle and line it up to where it was, so I know the halfway point. Just jot that down. And then I can line up the halfway point here to have my inner circle. And I'll do the same thing here. I'll line up my circle with my marks. Here's my halfway point. And now I'll try and match it here. And the same thing here. Now, to make it easier to see on camera, I have this light colored pencil that I'm creating those shapes. So I'll go over it one more time. Just on that one. I'm going to continue this pattern, matching up the lines all the way, just across until I want to complete this piece. So now I have my piece complete with my sketch, kind of a pretty pattern going up here. I'm going to take my thread, and unlike traditional sashiko that uses white on the indigo, I'm using an off-white just because it coordinates with my colors. I like how that looks. By doing it this way and stitching it down, I have this area I can work with. I can come up with something. I can maybe put a little patch that says sashiko, or I can add some additional elements. I'll do that in a moment, but right now I want to work on creating those stitches. Now with sashiko, you want your stitch to use a running stitch or a straight stitch, which is just a simple up and down stitch inside your fabric, but you want the space between stitches to be half that of your stitch. So I'll start here, right at the intersection. I'm going to create that large dome, and I'll make it maybe 1/4 of an inch. It can be smaller, it can be larger. So now I want to skip about 1/8 of an inch. And now I want to make another 1/4 of an inch stitch. I'm following those guidelines. And I'll do this all the way around, trying to keep my stitches approximately the same size. If I don't make it, it's not going to be the end of the world. I can take out stitches or I can just leave it. But I really want to make sure that my stitches are as even as I can get them comfortably. So I'll continue stitching all along, going over each large circle and then going in for the smaller circles. So I stitched the scales here using that beautiful pattern. I love it. I love how it unites the piece. It has my colors. What I want to do though is use this empty space. This would be my book page, and I can certainly leave it like that. I find it very beautiful. But I like to add a little tag, and in the last year's Stitch With Me in 2024, I rubber stamped onto muslin and put the tag there, and I like that idea. This year though, I used larger stamps. So I already stamped Sashiko here, and I'll link the video below to show you just how I do it. I just have some rubber stamps. These happen to be clear. I attach them just to a clear block here. And then I take ink designed for fabric or craft. It looks just like regular ink, behaves the same. And I stamp my stamp onto my muslin, and then I have a personalized little tag or label. So I like that. I'm going to stitch around that to hold it in place. But I wanted something more, something to indicate the fish scales, the geometric design. So I have this little button. Again, I'm using everything in my stash, so this button is perfect for that. I think that came out really well. I'll stitch everything down and show you how that looks. So here is my completed first prompt of Stitch With Me in 2025. I love it. I incorporated some colors from the piece, from my color scheme, and I have page 1 mostly complete. I say mostly because I haven't stitched it down yet, and I might consider adding a border or just leaving it. That's the beauty of this project. Because it's a year-long project, I don't have to complete everything immediately. So I'm really pleased with that. One other thing I wanted to show, something different I'm doing this year, is in the past I had saved all my little threads. I have a video on that. They're called orts in some societies, and I call them threadlings. They're just the leftover thread that I snip when I'm making my stitched piece. Well, I'm going to save all of them for the Stitch With Me in 2025 and just put them inside this little clear vial. I don't know. I think it might be fun. I think the color schemes might coordinate. I don't know if I'll do anything with it at all, but that's where I'm headed this year. So that's my first prompt of Stitch With Me in 2025. Please feel free to post your work on our Facebook group, and I can't wait to see it. I try and comment on every post. It's a great community, and I hope you'll join us. So that's the first prompt in Stitch With Me 2025. I can't wait to see all the other prompts as they developed, and I can't wait to see your work. Please feel free to post it in our Facebook group and comment below what you thought about this prompt and what inspired you on your journey of creating the Stitch With Me in 2025 fabric book. I'm so glad you could join me. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And all the links mentioned in the video will be included in the class description. Thanks again, everyone. See you next time.